The photograph arrived at Dr. Sarah Chen's desk on a Tuesday morning that would forever change her understanding of human history. Tucked inside a manila envelope with no return address, the image showed what appeared to be an ancient Roman relief carving, but something was terribly wrong. The figure carved in stone held what looked unmistakably like a modern handheld device, complete with what appeared to be a screen displaying symbols that bore an eerie resemblance to circuit patterns. Sarah stared at the photograph for nearly an hour before reaching for her phone. As one of the world's leading archaeologists specializing in ancient technologies, she had seen countless artifacts that challenged conventional timelines. But this was different. This suggested something far more unsettling than simply advanced engineering. It suggested that perhaps our ancestors possessed knowledge that had been deliberately buried, hidden, or forgotten. The trail that photograph set in motion would lead Sarah across 3 continents, into the deepest archives of the world's most secretive institutions, and face-to-face with evidence that would force her to question everything she thought she knew about human technological development. What she discovered wasn't just a collection of anomalous artifacts. It was proof of a systematic effort to conceal technologies that shouldn't have existed, implemented by civilizations that supposedly knew nothing of electricity, precision machining, or advanced metallurgy. The first stop on Sarah's investigation took her to the basement levels of the Vatican's secret archives, where Brother Thomas, an elderly Jesuit scholar, led her through corridors lined with documents dating back over a millennium. The official reason for her visit was to examine early Christian accounts of unusual phenomena, but Brother Thomas had been expecting her. "Dr. Chun," he said as they walked past shelves stretching into shadow, "I received a most interesting phone call about your research. Someone wants you to see something that has been troubling us for quite some time." He stopped before a climate-controlled case containing what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary medieval illuminated manuscript. But as Sarah examined the detailed marginalia under magnification, she found herself looking at diagrams that made her breath catch. Embedded within the decorative borders were technical drawings showing gear systems that wouldn't be formally described by engineers until the Industrial Revolution. More unsettling still were the detailed anatomical sketches, showing surgical procedures using instruments that bore an uncanny resemblance to modern laser surgical tools. "The manuscript is authenticated to 1347, Brother Thomas explained quietly. "The monk who created it, Brother Albertus, claimed the knowledge came to him in visions." But notice the precision of these technical specifications. These aren't the fevered imaginings of a medieval mind. They're engineering blueprints. Sarah photographed every page, but it was the final illustration that left her hands shaking. Brother Albertus had drawn what appeared to be a flying machine, but not the fanciful bird-like contraptions typically associated with early flight dreams. This looked disturbingly similar to modern aircraft, complete with what appeared to be jet propulsion systems and detailed aerodynamic principles that wouldn't be understood for another 6 centuries. The next piece of evidence came from an unexpected source. Dr. Rajesh Gupta, a metallurgist at the Indian Institute of Technology, contacted Sarah after seeing her preliminary research published in a small archaeological journal. He invited her to Delhi to examine something that had been puzzling materials scientists for decades. In a secured laboratory, Rajesh showed Sarah a collection of metal objects recovered from various archaeological sites across India, some dating back over 2,000 years. Under electron microscopy, the metallurgy revealed something impossible. These ancient artifacts contained traces of materials that shouldn't exist in nature and alloy compositions that required industrial processes not developed until the 20th century. "Look at this," Rajesh said, indicating a small disc recovered from a 2,000-year-old site in Maharashtra. "The base metal is iron, but it's been treated with a process that creates a molecular structure we can barely achieve today. The surface layer contains rare earth elements arranged in patterns that suggest some form of electromagnetic application. It's as if someone in ancient India possessed knowledge of materials science that we're only beginning to understand." More disturbing were the larger artifacts. Several metallic objects, ranging from decorative items to what appeared to be mechanical components, showed evidence of precision machining. The tolerances were so exact that they could only have been achieved with computer-controlled equipment. Yet these objects had been carbon dated to periods when the most advanced tools supposedly consisted of bronze chisels and stone grinding wheels. Sarah's investigation took on new urgency when she received an encrypted message from someone identifying themselves only as Archivarius. The message contained coordinates leading to a private research facility in Switzerland, along with a simple instruction: come alone. Bring no recording devices. What you are about to see will change your understanding of human civilization. The facility, hidden in an unremarkable industrial complex outside Geneva, belonged to Dr. Klaus Hoffmann, a former CERN physicist who had spent the last 2 decades investigating what he called temporal anomalies in human technological development. Klaus greeted Sarah in a laboratory filled with some of the most sophisticated analytical equipment she had ever seen. Dr. Chun, I've been following your work with great interest. What I'm about to show you represents 20 years of collecting evidence that our conventional understanding of technological progress is fundamentally flawed. Klaus led her to a vault containing dozens of artifacts from around the world. Each had been subjected to the most rigorous scientific analysis available. The evidence was overwhelming and disturbing. A Mesopotamian tablet from 4000 BCE contained mathematical formulas that weren't formally discovered until the development of quantum mechanics. An Egyptian papyrus included detailed instructions for creating what could only be described as a primitive form of plastic, complete with molecular diagrams. A Chinese bronze mirror from the Han Dynasty had been manufactured using techniques that required an understanding of atomic structure. But this is the item that convinced me we're dealing with something unprecedented, Klaus said, leading Sarah to a special containment unit. Inside was a crystalline object about the size of a smartphone, recovered from a Mayan site and carbon dated to approximately 900 CE. Under specialized scanning, the crystal revealed an internal structure that was clearly artificial, geometric patterns that formed what appeared to be a 3-dimensional circuit board. When subjected to electromagnetic testing, the crystal responded by generating complex harmonic frequencies. It's a data storage device, Klaus explained. We've been able to extract partial information, and what we've found is troubling. It contains detailed star charts showing astronomical phenomena that weren't observable without advanced telescopes, mathematical proofs that wouldn't be developed for another 1,000 years, and what appears to be technical specifications for technologies we're still struggling to understand. The implications were staggering. Either multiple ancient civilizations had independently developed advanced technologies that were subsequently lost, or there had been some form of technological transfer that conventional archaeology couldn't explain. But Klaus had a third theory, one that kept him awake at night. What if this knowledge wasn't developed by ancient humans at all? What if it was given to them? Sarah's investigation took a darker turn when she traveled to Easter Island to examine recent excavations. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, the site director, had uncovered a chamber beneath one of the famous Moai statues that contained artifacts unlike anything previously discovered on the island. We found this chamber completely sealed, Maria explained as they descended into the excavation site. The artifacts inside were preserved in an oxygen-free environment, which is how we know they're original to the site construction period, approximately 1250 CE. The chamber contains stone tablets covered in precise geometric patterns that served no decorative purpose. When scanned with ground-penetrating radar, the patterns revealed themselves to be 3-dimensional. The tablets weren't carved decoratively, but engineered as functional components. The precision required to create these patterns would challenge modern manufacturing capabilities. More unsettling were the metallic objects found alongside the tablets. These appeared to be tools or instruments, crafted from an unknown alloy that showed no signs of corrosion despite their age. Each tool had been designed for a specific purpose, but purposes that made no sense in the context of Polynesian Stone Age technology. They appear to be precision instruments for measuring electromagnetic fields, calculating astronomical positions, and manipulating materials at a molecular level. The most disturbing discovery was this, Maria said, indicating a section of the chamber wall where the stone had been carved with impossible precision. The carving showed detailed cross-sections of human anatomy, but with additions that didn't match normal human physiology. The figures showed additional organs, modified bone structures, and what appear to be artificial implants integrated with natural tissue. It's as if whoever created these carvings had detailed knowledge of genetic engineering and cybernetic enhancement. But they were doing this 700 years before we understood that such things were even theoretically possible. The pattern was becoming clear. Across multiple continents, separated by thousands of years and vast oceans, ancient civilizations had possessed knowledge and technologies that contradicted every established understanding of human technological development. But what connected these disparate discoveries was evidence of external influence, suggestions that this knowledge hadn't developed organically within human societies. Sarah's research led her to the British Museum's restricted collections, where Dr. Jonathan Hartwell, a curator specializing in anomalous artifacts, showed her items that had been quietly removed from public display over the decades. The collection included Sumerian cylinder seals depicting technical diagrams for what appeared to be electrical generation systems, Egyptian hieroglyphs that included mathematical symbols for concepts not formally described until the development of advanced physics, and Celtic metalwork that showed evidence of precision manufacturing requiring electron beam welding. "We've been collecting these items for over a century," Dr. Hartwell explained. Each one represents a fundamental challenge to established archaeological timelines. But taken together, they suggest something far more significant, a pattern of technological knowledge that appeared suddenly in multiple civilizations, flourished briefly, and then vanished completely. The most disturbing items in the collection were the photographic plates, thousands of images taken by expeditions in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, showing artifacts and structures that no longer existed or had been significantly altered. These photographs documented evidence of advanced technologies in ancient sites around the world, evidence that had subsequently been removed, buried, or destroyed. There has been a systematic effort to conceal this evidence, Dr. Hartwell said quietly. Not by any single organization, but by a confluence of interests, academic institutions protecting established theories, governments concerned about social stability, and religious organizations defending theological timelines. The result has been the gradual erasure of anything that challenges our fundamental assumptions about human development. Sarah's investigation reached its climax when she received an invitation to attend a private symposium in Iceland. The gathering brought together researchers from around the world who had been quietly investigating similar anomalies. What she learned there would force her to reconsider not just the history of human technology, but the nature of human development itself. Dr. Elena Petrov, a Russian xenoarchaeologist, presented evidence from Siberian excavations that had uncovered preserved organic materials showing genetic modifications that shouldn't have been possible without advanced biotechnology. Dr. Ahmed Hassan from Cairo had discovered hieroglyphic texts describing medical procedures that required detailed knowledge of neurosurgery and pharmacology. Dr. Michael Thompson from the University of Edinburgh had found Celtic stone circles that functioned as precision astronomical computers, capable of calculations that required understanding of relativistic physics. But it was Dr. Sarah's own presentation that tied all the evidence together. Using advanced computer modeling, she had analyzed the patterns of technological appearance and disappearance across multiple civilizations. The results showed that advanced knowledge hadn't developed gradually through human innovation. It had appeared suddenly, been applied for brief periods, and then vanished completely, often coinciding with periods of social upheaval or civilizational collapse. The evidence suggests that human civilizations have repeatedly received technological knowledge from external source, Sarah concluded. This knowledge has consistently exceeded the natural development capabilities of the receiving societies, has been applied in ways that suggest incomplete understanding by the human recipients, and has subsequently been lost or deliberately concealed. The implications were staggering. If Sarah's analysis was correct, human technological development hadn't followed the gradual progression described in history books. Instead, it had been artificially accelerated at specific periods by knowledge transfer from an unknown source. This would explain not only the anomalous artifacts found around the world, but also the gaps in technological understanding that characterized many ancient civilizations. But the most disturbing implication was what this suggested about current human technological development. If previous instances of accelerated progress have been followed by periods of regression and concealment, what did this mean for contemporary society? Were modern technological advances following the same pattern? And if so, what happened to civilizations that received knowledge they weren't ready to handle responsibly? Sarah's research had uncovered evidence of a phenomenon that challenged every established understanding of human history and technological development. Ancient civilizations around the world had possessed knowledge and capabilities that shouldn't have existed, had applied this knowledge in ways that suggested external guidance, and had subsequently lost this knowledge in patterns that seemed deliberate rather than accidental. The photographs, artifacts, and documents she had assembled painted a picture of human civilization that was far more complex and mysterious than conventional archaeology suggested. Rather than representing a steady progression from primitive to advanced societies, human history appeared to be cyclical, with periods of advanced knowledge alternating with periods of technological regression and concealment. The forbidden technologies of the past weren't just anomalous artifacts. They were evidence of a larger pattern that continued to influence human development. Understanding this pattern might be crucial for navigating humanity's technological future, but it would require acknowledging that our species' relationship with advanced knowledge was far more complex than anyone had previously imagined. As Sarah compiled her final report, she realized that the most important question wasn't what these ancient technologies had been, but whether humanity was ready to handle the truth about its own technological history. The evidence suggested that previous civilizations had struggled with knowledge that exceeded their wisdom, leading to periods of progress followed by collapse and concealment. The forbidden technologies of the past represented more than archaeological mysteries. They were a warning about the responsibilities that came with advanced knowledge and the importance of developing wisdom alongside technological capability. The pattern Sarah had uncovered suggested that humanity's future might depend on learning from these hidden chapters of its own history, rather than repeating the cycles of progress and regression that had characterized previous eras. The photographs that had started her investigation had indeed changed how she saw history, but they had also revealed something far more significant: that understanding humanity's past was crucial for navigating its future, and that the most important technologies might not be the ones we developed, but the wisdom to use knowledge responsibly. The forbidden technologies of the past weren't just relics of bygone eras. They were guideposts for understanding humanity's relationship with knowledge itself and the responsibilities that came with technological advancement. But Sarah's investigation was far from over. 3 days after returning from Iceland, she received another encrypted message from Archivarius. This time, the coordinates led to an abandoned monastery in the mountains of Tibet, where she would discover evidence that would make everything she had learned seem like merely the surface of a much deeper mystery. The journey to the monastery required a grueling trek through mountain passes that hadn't seen visitors in decades. Sarah was accompanied by Tenzin, a local guide whose grandfather had once been a monk at the facility before its mysterious abandonment in 1951. According to Tenzin's family stories, the monks had left suddenly, in the middle of the night, taking nothing with them and sealing the monastery with instructions that it should never be opened again. My grandfather spoke of strange lights and sounds coming from the monastery in its final months, Tenzin explained as they climbed toward the ancient structure. The monks had been studying texts that had been hidden in the mountains for thousands of years, texts that contained knowledge the world wasn't ready to receive. The monastery itself was a testament to advanced engineering that seemed impossible for its supposed construction period in the 13th century. The walls were fitted together with precision that would challenge modern construction techniques, and the structure showed evidence of earthquake resistance that shouldn't have been understood until the development of modern seismic engineering. Inside, Sarah discovered why the monks had fled. The main hall contained a series of stone tablets arranged in a complex geometric pattern. Each tablet was covered with symbols that appear to be a form of written language, but unlike any human writing system she had ever encountered. The symbols seemed to incorporate three-dimensional elements, as if the meaning could only be understood by viewing them from multiple angles simultaneously. More unsettling was the fact that many of the symbols appear to be moving. Under careful examination, Sarah realized that the stone itself had been engineered to create optical illusions that made the carved symbols seem to shift and change as the viewer's position changed. This wasn't simple artistic decoration. It was a sophisticated information storage system that encoded multiple layers of meaning in a single surface. Working with portable scanning equipment, Sarah began documenting the tablets. What she discovered challenged not just her understanding of ancient technology, but her understanding of ancient human cognition itself. The symbols represented mathematical concepts that required multidimensional thinking, engineering principles that suggested understanding of quantum mechanics, and astronomical data that included information about star systems not visible to the naked eye. But the most disturbing discovery came when she found the translation chamber. Hidden beneath the main hall was a room containing what appeared to be a primitive but functional computer system, carved entirely from stone and metal components that showed no signs of aging despite their obvious antiquity. The system seemed designed to translate the complex symbolic language into forms that human minds could comprehend. When Sarah activated the translation system using procedures described in carefully preserved instructions, the results were both enlightening and terrifying. The tablets contained detailed technical specifications for technologies that were decades ahead of current human capabilities. They described methods for manipulating matter at the atomic level, techniques for faster-than-light communication, and blueprints for energy generation systems that could power entire civilizations without environmental impact. But alongside these technical specifications were warnings. The text spoke repeatedly of civilizations that had received similar knowledge and had destroyed themselves through its misuse. They described a pattern of technological transfer that had occurred throughout human history, always with the same results: rapid advancement followed by catastrophic collapse. The final translated section contained a direct message that seemed to be addressed to whoever eventually discovered the monastery. To those who seek the forbidden knowledge, understand that advancement without wisdom leads only to destruction. The technologies contained herein have been given to humanity repeatedly throughout your species' development. Each time, the recipients have focused on the power these technologies could provide rather than the responsibilities they entailed. Each time, the result has been the same: civilizations that grew too quickly, wielded forces they couldn't control, and ultimately collapsed under the weight of their own capabilities. The knowledge is preserved not to be used, but to serve as a warning. Your species stands once again at the threshold of receiving capabilities that could transform your world or destroy it. The choice, as always, is yours to make. Sarah spent 3 days in the monastery, documenting everything she could find. The evidence suggested that the knowledge preserved there had been collected from multiple sources across thousands of years, representing a comprehensive archive of advanced technologies that had appeared and disappeared throughout human history. But more than just a repository of lost knowledge, the monastery served as a warning system, designed to help future generations understand the patterns of their own development. When she returned to civilization, Sarah found that her investigation had attracted unwanted attention. Dr. Klaus Hoffmann contacted her with urgent news. His laboratory in Switzerland had been broken into, and several of the most significant artifacts in his collection had been stolen. Similar incidents had occurred at research facilities around the world, suggesting a coordinated effort to suppress the evidence they had been collecting. "Someone wants this information to remain hidden," Klaus told her during an encrypted video call. "The question is whether they're trying to prevent misuse of the knowledge, or simply maintaining control over it for their own purposes." Sarah's investigation took on new urgency when she discovered that the pattern of suppression wasn't random. The stolen artifacts and destroyed evidence followed a specific pattern, targeting items that provided the clearest proof of external technological transfer. Someone was systematically removing evidence that human technological development hadn't followed natural progression. Her search for answers led her to Dr. Elizabeth Warren, a former NSA analyst who had spent decades investigating what she called temporal intelligence, information that appeared in human societies before they should have possessed the knowledge to develop it independently. Dr. Warren operated from a secured facility in the Nevada desert, surrounded by enough electronic countermeasures to defeat the most sophisticated surveillance systems. "Dr. Chun, what you've discovered represents only a small portion of what's really happening, Dr. Warren explained as she led Sarah through her facility. "There are organizations that have been monitoring and managing human technological development for centuries. They don't prevent advancement, but they do control the pace and direction of progress." Dr. Warren's facility contained evidence that made Sarah's previous discoveries seem mundane. She had documented instances of technological knowledge appearing in classified research projects without any traceable source, scientific breakthroughs that occurred simultaneously at unconnected institutions, and patterns of innovation that suggested external coordination rather than independent human development. "The technologies you found in ancient sites aren't lost knowledge," Dr. Warren continued. "They're field tests. Someone has been using human civilizations as laboratories for centuries, introducing technologies to see how they'll be used, studying the results, and then removing the evidence when the experiments conclude." The evidence Dr. Warren had compiled painted a picture of human history as a carefully managed experiment. Advanced technologies have been introduced at specific periods to test human reactions and capabilities. Civilizations that showed promise in using the knowledge responsibly were allowed to develop further, while those that showed destructive tendencies faced technological regression or complete collapse. "The pattern is accelerating," Dr. Warren warned. "Current human technological development is progressing at a rate that suggests another major intervention is approaching. The question is whether humanity will pass this next test or repeat the failures of previous civilizations." Sarah's investigation had uncovered evidence of a phenomenon that challenged not just archaeological understanding, but the fundamental assumptions about human autonomy and development. The forbidden technologies of the past weren't simply lost knowledge. They were evidence of ongoing external influence that had shaped human civilization from its earliest periods. But understanding this pattern raised new questions that were even more disturbing than the original mystery. If human technological development was being managed by external forces, what did this mean for human free will and self-determination? Were contemporary technological advances genuine human achievements, or simply the latest phase in a long-running experiment? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah received a final message from Archivarius, containing coordinates for a location that didn't appear on any map. Following the directions led her to a facility hidden beneath the Sahara Desert, a structure so advanced that it made everything she had previously discovered seem primitive by comparison. Inside the facility, she encountered Archivarius in person for the first time. He appeared to be human, but his knowledge of the technologies surrounding them suggested otherwise. He led her through chambers containing artifacts from civilizations that had existed throughout human history, each representing a different phase of the ongoing experiment. "You have asked the right questions, Dr. Chun," Archivarius said as they walked through galleries containing technologies that defied comprehension. "Now you are ready to learn the complete truth. Human civilization has indeed been guided and monitored, but not for the reasons you might assume. Your species possesses unique capabilities that make you valuable contributors to galactic civilization, but only if you can develop wisdom alongside your technological abilities. The interventions throughout your history have been designed to help you reach this potential, but the choice to succeed or fail has always been your own. The forbidden technologies you've discovered were left as tests and warnings. Each generation that uncovers them faces the same choice. Use the knowledge responsibly and advance to the next level of development, or repeat the mistakes of the past and face the consequences. Archivarius showed Sarah evidence of human civilizations that had passed the test, developing into advanced societies that had eventually joined larger galactic communities. But he also showed her the ruins of civilizations that had failed, their technologies turned to destruction rather than advancement. Your current civilization stands at the most critical juncture in human history, he explained. The technologies being developed now will determine whether humanity advances to become a positive force in the galaxy or follows the path of previous failures. The choice is no longer theoretical. Within the next few decades, your species will develop capabilities that could either solve your greatest challenges or destroy your entire world. The forbidden technologies of the past exist to help you understand what's at stake and make the right decisions. Sarah's investigation had revealed the truth about humanity's technological history, but it had also revealed humanity's potential future. The forbidden technologies weren't just archaeological mysteries. They were guideposts for navigating the most important choices the human species would ever face. As she prepared to return to the surface world with this knowledge, Sarah understood that her role had changed from investigator to guardian. The evidence she had collected couldn't be released publicly without careful preparation, but it also couldn't remain hidden from those who would need to make crucial decisions in the coming years. The forbidden technologies of the past had taught her that knowledge without wisdom led to destruction, but they had also shown her that wisdom could transform even the most dangerous technologies into tools for positive advancement. The question now was whether humanity could learn these lessons quickly enough to pass its ultimate test. The photographs that had started her journey had indeed changed how she saw history, but more importantly, they had shown her how to see the future. The forbidden technologies of the past weren't just evidence of what had been. They were blueprints for what could be if humanity chose wisely. The greatest discovery wasn't what ancient civilizations had achieved, but what current civilization could become if it learned from their successes and failures. The truth about humanity's technological development would remain hidden for now, but Sarah knew that the time for revelation was approaching. When that time came, the world would need to be ready to hear that human civilization had never been alone, that its development had been carefully guided toward a greater purpose, and that its future depended on making choices worthy of the cosmic community it was destined to join. The forbidden technologies of the past had served their purpose. They had prepared selected individuals to guide humanity through its greatest challenge. Now it was time to see if the lessons had been learned well enough to ensure that humanity's future would be written among the stars rather than buried beneath the ruins of another failed experiment.